Hey PJ, so Jerry Bierman, I'm the owner operator of Alluring Glass, and I got PJ with me. Hey PJ,
Hey guys, how we doing?
good. So today, this is like I am shooting this from Cape Coral, Florida. I was just showing you the beautiful sunshine and the blue skies, and we actually have green grass. And I was just telling you about the crane and a bird that we're fighting over the canal. So I'm super fortunate to be located where I'm located, and it is Friday. What's the date today? February the 4th. And you are locked at home because of the weather in Cincinnati, right?
Yeah, most of the city's stuck inside right now. We had a ice storm basically last night, and now we're all snowed in. So
Yeah.
everyone's kind of adjusting and working from home right now.
Yeah. And you did your good deed. You got your wife out, right? To work. Emily's works at the hospital, so she had to get
Yep,
out. And you,
exactly. Pushed her out of the snow, used my manpower, came inside, chugged the water to make myself feel a little bit better, and went back to sleep.
and you helped a few neighbors as well. So that's
Yep.
good. Which is so today's like this is not an exit interview. But I did want to jump on a call with you, and I asked permission to kind of tape it to say, hey, look, you've been part of our team for I think a year. Did you start like right after the first of the year in 2021?
Yep. And I think it was this like the first day after New Year. So I think it was like January 2nd or something like that. Yeah.
And you graduated. You're from Cleveland. You're a big Browns fan. I know that we've had discussions about how the Browns beat the Bengals twice this year, and yet the Bengals are still going to the Super Bowl. So there's all kinds of interesting conversations we could have about that. But you and your wife are from Cleveland, but you're a UC grad. You got a marketing degree. And when I met you, you were kind of like COVIDized, right? You had your degree, but the opportunities that you were exploring weren't readily available.
Yeah, and I think that time period for not only me but a lot of people in the country was an interesting. That's when, of course, there's a lot of jobs available now, but at the time there was
Yeah.
like the jobs available weren't there. Opportunities that were available were filled within days. So I was kind of looking around trying to find a place to call home at the time for sure.
Yeah. And so as you and I met, what were some of the things that you wanted to do? I mean, you needed a job, obviously. What were some of the things that you wanted to do? And kind of one of the things I'd like to do is like kind of pull back the curtains and for young people coming into a trades business, not necessarily just Alluring Glass, but you've met and you've heard me talk about a bunch of my friends that own these small family clan owned businesses. Um, and so kind of pulling back the curtains a little bit, PJ, what did you think the environment would be like coming into a little, family clan business of 20 people? What did you think it would be like? And then what was it actually like? And even, you have full permission to tell me the, things that you liked and obviously the things that you didn't like.
Yeah, and it's funny because I had a job at the time. It wasn't like I was jobless, but I was looking for a place to grow and kind of learn skills. And like you said, I had someone who worked there at the time that I knew at Alluring Glass that pitched me on Alluring Glass, and like you're saying, that family clan type feel, in a place that I could kind of grow my skills. And I think going into it, it's a little more nerve wracking than going to a big company because you're like everyone knows everyone. It's like if
Family.
everyone knows everything about each other,
Yeah.
and you come into it, and you're like, that's I'm joining that, so it's going to be a very like open door type policy of like sharing my life with these people. So I think initially it's a little nerve wracking, but it's also an exciting thing to get into because you're like, when these people are going to actually know me
Yeah.
well, and they're gonna help me and grow me because of that,
Yeah.
knowing me at a personal level. Um,
And then can you remember what it felt like for the first 90 days or so as you were coming in? And as I recall, you were coming in and I was like, hey, PJ, I don't actually know exactly where we can use you. I liked you as I met you. You impressed me as a nice guy, very engaging. So, just my first impression of you was like, this is a nice young man. And so I'd love to find some spot in my organization that you could work. But we really didn't know. If you remember back, we were like, I'm not exactly sure where to put you.
Yeah, and I think those first like 90 days, first 3 months, I'm coming into the trades, not only trades that a business I don't know anything about, but the trades that I've never really been a part of
Yeah.
growing up. Like I had jobs, but it wasn't within the trades.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of just like I was like, I was a blank notebook and I just had to learn, and just kind of like absorb information like
Yeah.
constantly. Whether it was about my coworkers or more importantly about our product and learning all the things, because I was doing everything at the time. It was either going out in the field, helping stuff with social media or marketing, and kind of just like I said, absorbing a lot of information in the process.
Well, and one of the things that I talk to young people about, whether you've got a college degree, but I talk to a lot of young people without college degrees as well. And whether you have a college degree like you and many of our teammates at Alluring Glass, or you don't, like many of our teammates at Alluring Glass, you can still come into these small family-owned businesses and develop skills that one of the things that you've heard me say, you've heard me say a lot of things over the past year that I ended up repeating over and over again. But one of the things I do with you guys is I hold my hand out like this and I say, hey, look, my job as a leader owner is to prepare you for bigger and better things, like bigger and better things within Alluring Glass that I'm going to hit on for a second, and then bigger things outside of Alluring Glass. So we don't try to hold on to guys necessarily if there's bigger and better opportunities for them. So when you came into Alluring Glass, you did a lot of things. And I told you probably 2 weeks ago, I said, hey, as you're leaving Alluring Glass, PJ, I just want to let you know, you and I had a private conversation that we're now recording, but I said to you, hey, I want you to know that I'm observing how you're leading as you're leaving. And what I said to you is you're leading very well as you're leaving. And I told you, I said, I promise you, I will tell you what I mean by that later. Well, you're going to hear about that in a few minutes. But when you were, again, you came into Alluring Glass and were wondering how you were going to be utilized. So you had, I think it was probably the first 6 months you were in the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you went out with craftsmen. What are like one or two of the things that you learned, being in the field? What's one or two things as you look at the next chapter of your career that you're like, wow, that was valuable learning?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to look at being in the field and being like, oh, that's like just you're using your muscles, it's hard work, like that's all it is. But I
Yeah.
think something I learned, and I think being with Bailey really showed me this as well, was the like intelligence and like
Hmm.
mind capacity you need to have to adjust on the fly as much as those guys do out in the field
Yeah.
is something that is like you can't prepare for, and it's something that you learn, and it's such a useful tool that I then implemented into my next role at the company, which was like the project manager role, which was just a lot of adjusting, but
Yeah.
also like how you adjust, like
Yeah.
with a sense of calmness, like moving to the next thing, being confident that we're going to get this done and get it done correctly.
Yeah, let's hang on to product management a second, because I do want to go do a deep dive there. But going back to the field, so some of the critical thinking, some of the what did you, because you worked with a lot of the craftsmen when you were in the field. What did you notice about their demeanor, of how they dealt with conflict, how they dealt, because we're in people's homes, right? You're a guest in somebody's house and things don't always go smoothly. What did you learn or observe from the craftsmen?
Yeah, and I think these moments were seen in the rare instance that, say, you were in someone's home and a shower couldn't be put in, and you have this homeowner who's been desperately wanting to get their bathroom done, because we're not just the only people in there, we're the last people in there for the most part, and they just want this over with and get it in and look good. In those situations where you have to tell someone that that's not going to happen today is so tough, because
So hard.
you don't know how they're going to react. Of course, you have people who will get angry, but there's also like the kind people. So you got to be ready to just react to how they're going to react. And I think observing those guys and seeing how they just were able to thoroughly explain the situation to the customer, be transparent about the steps going forward that we're going to take, and just making sure they're on the same page with us after we leave that home that day.
Yeah.
I think taught me a lot in just kind of how to customer service aspects of like, how can I set this customer up for success going forward?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So you did that for about 6 months. And then I said, hey, PJ, you obviously have an interest in some education and sales and marketing. And so we're going to ambitiously go after some revenue generation initiatives. And I'd like you to head that up. And so then you all of a sudden went from the field to a brand new position that you that never existed before in our company, right? And you welcomed that with open arms and went into building a foundation that has had massive success in a short period of time, in my opinion. But how was that transition going in? Now, once again, you're in another position in our company that never existed before, and you're commissioned to build it. How was that, again, and not only how was that transition for you, but what were some of the pieces that you learned in those times?
Yeah, I think the transition was interesting because, like you said, like there wasn't anybody that was like leaving that was like, oh, this is how I did it. Step one,
Right.
step two. And like me and you worked together hand in hand in that, which was like figuring out, okay, what is the best way? How can we best reach out to contractors, to businesses, and seeing how we can best serve them.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was a lot of trial and error at times. It was a lot of learning from mistakes. But kind of crafting the best way to, of course, talk to the contractors, explaining to them what we're doing, what our goals are,
Yeah.
and then also once kind of getting those contractors, setting them up for success with Alluring Glass and kind of showing them the best version of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were incredibly teachable. I sent you an email on this morning that was heartfelt, and that, one of the things that I appreciate about you is just how teachable you are, that I could say to you, hey, I had, again, I'm 55. I'm a seminar junkie. I used to be. I used to read a book a week on leadership and marketing, and so I have all this intellectual property as it relates to sales and marketing, and I was just trying to um, I guess mind dump all this stuff that I've learned over the past 30 years. And you were always respectful. I didn't always do it well, and nor do I still do it well. But I was just trying to give you all the information that I had learned over the years. And one of the things I appreciate about you is how coachable and teachable you were and you are, PJ. So thank you for that. It was really great working with you through that transition. And then because of the success you had with sales and marketing, then all of a sudden, and you and I talked about this, is like, hey, eventually the sales and marketing is going to produce results, and then you're going to have to manage projects. So now you've got these hats where you can see why a lot of small business owners are bald, because they're putting on different hats all the time. Take one off, put one on. And so then you transitioned, like you're in the same seat, but now you're doing sales and marketing. And now all of a sudden you're getting results and you're moving into project management. How was that transition? And what are some of the things you learned in actually managing projects from cradle to grave?
Yeah, and I think this was another role which I was like, I had never done before, and it was a lot of absorbing. Like it was working with Mark and Nick and kind of figuring out, and with you, just like how to best succeed in this role. And I think like all those experiences of, and especially getting prime manager, I think the most was kind of like learning how to be trained was so, it's a big deal going forward for now and my career going forward. Like just being able to like, I don't want to say humble, but like be like, I don't know this, so I
Yeah.
need to listen. Like I need to learn and grow from this. And I think, I mean, when I think about that role specifically and all the roles that I experienced at Learning Glass, like the acceptance of training is so big, because I think
Yeah.
that's just how you grow. Like it is like dumb of me to think that I would know all the answers to everything and all the steps in the process. Like once you accept that, hey, I can really learn from somebody else, I think those are the biggest growth stunts you see in people, is when they just accept someone else to kind of show them the ropes and then
Yeah.
learn and improve, even improve on what has been done before.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And so one of the things that you're super competitive. So we had fun with the fantasy football, and we had fun with our company outings, which you feel free to come, as long as you're in town and you're available to come to our company outings that we do on the 5th Tuesdays, or obviously the Friday morning breakfast you won't be able to do. But some of the culture things that we've done over the past, that you've been a part of for the past 12 months, what were some of the culture pieces that you enjoyed the most, and that somebody coming into our family might enjoy.
Yeah, and I think I've reiterated this, especially these past 2 weeks. Like I feel like over and over is that is what is making my transition out of the company the hardest part is the culture. We kind of spoke about at the beginning. Like you come in nervous, but now I'm at the point where like that's what you're gonna miss is kind of getting to know all these people in a smaller business. Like people like you guys, Dakota, Mark, like all these guys that I didn't know going into, but now I'm leaving. I'm like, dang, I'm gonna miss seeing these guys every day. Because I think everyone in the company took an intentional manner to get to know each other and learn about each other's lives. And then I think going forward, when we had those outings and when we had those moments, it was like you were out with your family out to a dinner, or you were out with your family playing ping pong or doing things like that.
Bowling.
I
Do you remember
Fold,
bowling?
yes, bowling, like things like that, that I think it helps the culture as a whole, because then you come back to work the next day and we're all laughing about what we experienced the night before. And the investment you guys put into the employees to kind of say, like, we care for you. We want to like honor your work by having a night out together. So I think all those things added together just create a culture that uh, that makes it so when things go wrong in the company or there's challenges, everyone can be very honest and genuine with each other to push through things and learn from each other.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and I mentioned to you when you were talking to us about, you were talking to myself and Dakota about transitioning out. I said, hey, look, PJ, we're for you. Like regardless of your decision, we're for you. So we love you. We're for you. And, that being said, one of the things, and I mentioned this to you earlier, that people would ask is like, if the culture's so good, then why would you leave? So
Yeah,
you're looking at, yeah.
Yeah, and that's like I said, it's the tough part about leaving is because of the culture. And there's aspects like as like a God-fearing man, like when I'm praying and considering things and looking at the challenges ahead and kind of the growth that I'm looking for myself, it's difficult to say you want to leave somewhere that has so heavily invested into you. Um, but I think the culture is the thing that if it's so good, why would you leave? Then
Yeah.
I think it's the challenge of like, I see this next challenge ahead of me, and then taking the culture that I've learned from Alluring Glass and implementing into my next destination is something that's also exciting, because I think if we can replicate that culture in other companies by kind of plopping people in different spots, then I think all these companies as a whole are gonna thrive.
Gosh, I love that. And I tell people like yourself that move on to bigger and better opportunities that, hey, look, if you want, I'd love to, stay connected and help you any way I can. And I'd love, if there's an impact that you can make in that culture, and, and you're going into a company, just in full transparency, that's a national company, that Co-Construct is a big, successful company that many of our friends use. The company that you're going to work for, many of our friends use that software. And so you're going to have, some national opportunities. You're going to be able to, potentially work back from home in Cleveland, which is great for you. But I also said, hey, look, you're not burning any bridges with me or Alluring Glass. So, if the opportunities present themselves for you to come back in a different role, the cranes are squawking or whatever they call that. I think they're cheering you on, PJ. Anyway, you're welcome to come back. And it is like a family member, like moving on, like you graduate from college and you move on, and it's like sad in a moment, but it's like, gosh, the next chapter is going to be super exciting. And so I speak out on behalf of myself and the rest of our team, Maddie and the guys, that we love you and we're for you. But I do want to finish with one of the things I said to you is you're leading really well while you're leaving. And I said, gosh, I wonder if I said this to you, is I wonder if you know what you're doing. And I told you I'd share that with you. So I'm going to do that right now. So what I observed is that your empathy, like in our huddles, PJ, when in multiple occasions were sharing about your transition. So you've got a room of 20 people, some of them are live, and Jeff and Mark are typically on Zoom calls, but the amount of self-awareness and other awareness, and I wish I videotaped it because it'd be powerful for other people to see, that when you were describing the opportunity, your self-awareness to make sure that you were, projecting to the team that you care about them, and that you're going to miss them, and not in an inauthentic way. It was super genuine. But you also talked about the what you were leaving, and then you were also talking about what you were stepping into and the opportunities. And one of the things that happens for teams, families, is when one person leaves, it creates, like, even for me as the owner of the company, I want you to move on to bigger and better things. But in full transparency, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to leave. Like, is there something wrong with me? Am I not doing something right? And so I'm speaking from an owner standpoint, like, that your job as an employee of mine isn't to reassure me, but in essence, that's what you did. Like, and we talk about leading up, and you led me really well through your transition. Like, you influenced me, because in my mind, I had narratives going like, I'm not a very good leader. PJ doesn't want to work with me. And just narratives that are destructive and unhealthy. And you led me really well. And I can't speak for the other guys, but watching the room and how people responded and reacted to you, I was like, gosh, PJ is leading really well when he's leaving. And we've talked about that. The way you leave a company is way more important than the way you come to a company. So, I say to you, well done. You did a great job. And you and I can talk more when we meet, because we're doing this on a Zoom call, because one is I'm out of town, and the other is you're locked in by a snowstorm. So anyway, we love you and Emily, and we wish you nothing but the best. I appreciate you kind of pulling back the curtains a little bit and sharing some of your personal experiences with us, PJ.
Yeah, of course. And I appreciate, like, I think I've said this to you guys privately, and I try to convey the company. I wouldn't have this opportunity without my experience in Alluring Glass. Like, when I was talking with my future employers, like, all they asked about was Alluring Glass, which I felt like the whole time. And the things I've learned from you guys and things I was able to put on my resume because of what you guys put me through gave me an opportunity like this. So I'll forever be grateful for that opportunity.
Awesome. That's good. Well done, PJ. Love you, buddy.
I appreciate it.